Uber drivers. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you very much for coming. There should be a piece of paper in front of you. You may take the oath or the affirmation. Please switch on the mic as you do so. Let's start maybe on the on the left, from my left. Yeah, yes.
Like introducing myself.
Yeah, you may take the oath or the affirmation.
I, Spencer Sibanda, I swear that the evidence that I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me, Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Then you can hand over to your colleague in the middle.
I, Melitemba Chris Mguni, swear that the evidence that I shall give shall be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you, Mr. Mguni.
I am Samuel Mutivi, swear that the evidence that I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you, Mr. Mutivi. I'm not sure how you have structured your presentation, but you can go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Once again, I am an Uber partner driver, and mostly when I say Uber partner driver, many people don't understand because there is 3 stakeholders. There is Uber driver, there is Uber partner driver, then there is Uber partner. Just to explain, an Uber driver is someone who drives under the Uber platform or Taxify, but the vehicle that they drive does not belong to themselves. Then an Uber partner driver also drives under the platform, Uber or Taxify, but they will be driving their own vehicle. They can have a fleet, meaning they can have more than one vehicle. Then an Uber partner is someone who owns a vehicle, does not drive, will find an Uber driver to drive that vehicle. So in my case, I'm an Uber partner driver owning a fleet. I also drive. Just in explaining that, I think that our plights are slightly different based on those terms and with the circumstances, the expenses, because you will take it for an Uber driver and an Uber partner, they split the earnings between themselves. The earnings from the same vehicle between themselves. But an Uber partner driver takes all by himself. So it's quite different. I'm just explaining this because I've been asked questions before that why are you not abstaining from the Uber business if you think it's not working for you? Why are you not having a successful strike as a majority? Unfortunately, we are so much fragmented and our interests are slightly different. Okay, coming to the issue, also to explain, I'm one of the first Uber drivers in Joburg. I started in June 2014, so I've been with Uber almost from the beginning. I happened to be there when they started, when they were recruiting, until they matured, they established, until to date. So I happen to know a bit. I would like to start with inconsistency with policies and mechanisms that Uber and Taxify runs under. With policies, I would suggest that one has to look at the inconsistency of Uber in South Africa compared to other countries. You'll be shocked of the differences between Uber South Africa compared to other countries. And these differences you can't even justify because we Uber South Africa, if you would do a research, you realize that we've got the newest vehicles, we've got financed vehicles, we've got this Uber partner driver, whereas in other countries it's each driver per car. They don't have to split the fares. They've got fully paid off vehicles. But our fares remains the lowest compared to these other countries. Also, I've just to explain something, when I joined Uber, they used to have sessions where they were recruiting. So they will share their vision and mission. They will also give you figures as to how much you're gonna make. And when we asked about the price, why it was so low, they said they just wanted to establish. They had invested so much into the business. So they will make guarantees and incentives to make sure that our expenses are covered. And it was it. However, then they told us that the price was going to go up. They just wanted to get into the market, and then the price are going to go up. I remember when we started, we had guarantees. So you will have guarantees for, like, if you work for an hour, if you are supposed to make maybe 150 rands, if you don't, they'll give you the money. So if you make, let's say, 100 rands, they'll give you 50 rands. If you don't make anything, they'll give you that 150, just a guarantee to say an hourly rate. This is our hourly rate, and then you bid it. And also weekly, they used to give us 1,000 rands. The criteria was that you will have to serve certain hours, the ratings, so there's a rating system between the rider and the driver. So you have to maintain a certain rating, and also a number of trips, so you will get that 1,000 rand. Without informing us or anything, it dropped to 750. It also dropped to 500. And then eventually they disbanded it completely without any communication. And the fares were still not increased. So it's one of the issues that really frustrates us the most, that we have made it difficult for us to survive, because most people don't understand why now. Why did you join in the first place? They sold us pipeline dreams. They sold us something completely different from what they are today. Okay, there are a lot of things that have since changed. When I started, they used to cover like dispatch. So if I'm fetching a client in a dispatch of like 10 kilometers, and then I happen to take you just around the corner. If that trip is less than 10 kilometers, they will top it up. So let's say I drive on a dispatch of 10 kilometers and I take you 5 kilometers. They will cover the difference to make it 10 kilometers. They since took that out without any communication. And initially, mostly, the Uber fee, so there's an Uber fee, their commission that they take from each and every trip or each and every fare, used to be 20% when I started. Then it went up to 25%. And then, as if that was not enough, last year, they added a 4%, which is between them and the rider. So what they did, they increased the fares for the rider, but that increment only benefited them, not us, the drivers. So there is that 4% that only benefited them without us. So another shocking thing about Uber, it's we are a service provider, and mostly we depend on tips. When it comes to Uber, it was initially their policy that there is no tipping. And then in other countries, they were challenged. And countries like Germany, France, they had to dismantle that policy. But with us, it remained. So they wouldn't allow clients to tip. And then in other countries, they had to put it on an app. So when you end the trip, you as a client, you get a provision in the app where you've got an option to tip. In other countries like France, it's 10% off that trip. And then there's an optional option, there's where it gives you optional amount where you can put whatever amount that you put. And then usually clients, international clients, they were used to that from their countries. They'll often ask, why don't we have the tipping option? And tell them, no, we don't have. So they kept on demanding that. Only last year, November, they introduced the tipping option on the trip. And shockingly, when they introduced it, they gave 3 options, which is the first one, it's 2 rand. The other one is 5 rand, the other one is 10 rand. Then at the bottom, they put a little optional that you can't even notice. So you can imagine what's there for them to lose with a rider tipping me, that they would make it a policy that I can't be tipped. With the pressure from the riders, then they make it 2 rand. How much difference is it gonna make for me? For that 2 rand. Why can't you leave it optional? Then the rider will just decide on their own how much they can tip. Okay, and mostly now the issue that we're having is with the changes that I've just explained or that I've just brought forward, the business has become unsustainable for us. It's so much unsustainable. It has seen a lot of people getting blacklisted, their cars being repossessed, sleepless nights of driving, trying to cover up. So there's so much frustration in terms of earnings within the Uber. Then I'll just explain that one of the most contribution to the sustainability that is happening right now. I think it's public knowledge that the fuel has gone up. And you will notice with Uber, the price have remained the same. And in a transport industry, fuel is the most critical aspect of the business. We depend on driving and its fuel. But for so much, I remember, I think it used to be, how much was fuel back then?
Maybe 11 rand or 12 rand.
It was 11 rand something. I can't remember the cents. But today it has gone so much. So if you can calculate the difference that it makes from our earnings, it's too much. But they haven't took that to consideration. And then obviously there's things like inflation, the cost of living. Also those, they've impacted so much into our costs. And the other thing, mainly, our cars, mostly in South Africa, I believe that at some point you will ask for statistics from Uber to understand the dynamics, because I believe they'll come up to say, no, our drivers maybe are making so much. But I think it's the average. If average drivers are making that amount, then you can accept that, okay, that's the amount. But if you ask for the average earnings, that's when you realize that the business is not viable anymore. So I also think you will get to obtain that information as to how many cars that are fully paid, because that's where the difference comes in. I was listening to this other clip where there's a guy who was also presenting, I think, to you from Cape Town. So he spoke from I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm surprised. And I challenge you, which I think it's a crime to lie under oath. The gentleman lied. What he gave to the commission cannot be true. By all means, even though his vehicles are paid off, there is hardly an Uber driver who will make a sustainable earnings from 8 hours, which is why Uber has went on to put a time limit. Because for a driver that makes more money, when they say, there are drivers, there is always going to be that guy who's not going to sleep. Hence I said, I think it's going to be important for you to obtain the statistics, because there is always going to be that guy who does these earnings. But now the catch will be, how many hours are they saving on the road? That's when you will realize. We are always on the road. If ever you want to live a normal life, you're not going to earn anything. You cannot have an 8-hour day and expect to have enough earnings. It takes you to work 12, 15 hours to make earnings. And it still comes at a cost, because you're driving, you're on the road, you're eating, all those expenses, they still come to you. So that gentleman, what he said, even though I would assume his vehicles are paid off, but still, because that makes a difference. But like I said, there is a few people, less than 30% of vehicles in the Uber platform that are paid off. 70% of vehicles are financed, and 70% of vehicles are owned by partners. So are owned by someone who's not driving. They own a vehicle and then it's driven by someone else. And they have to split those earnings from that vehicle. Okay. One of the reasons when we asked that you are actually increasing from your side and not increasing from us, they said, no, we want to help the service to have the administration, so the increment is to better the administration. But I can promise you, what we've seen is just material things, better offices, bigger offices, but the service has gone terrible. The service that I had during my time when I signed up with Uber was amazing. They used to follow up on everything. They will attend you quickly. There were no queues. And at that time, people wanted to be part of this Uber. They were just flowing in. But at the time, they could still attend to us. In the evening, it was 24 hours. What has since happened, they have outsourced most of their responsibility. Hence, they've increased the price, but they've outsourced their responsibility. I'll count. So a vehicle goes through a stringent screening, so as the driver, differently. So the vehicle has to go through some screening before it is activated on the Uber platform. So they used to inspect the vehicles by themselves. They used to train drivers by themselves. They used to test drivers by themselves. But all of those responsibilities, they have outsourced them. They have outsourced all those responsibilities, and now we have to pay for all. If I take, so you're supposed to take your vehicle to DECRA, you pay. So there is also screening of drivers, the fingerprints, you pay. All the responsibilities now are outsourced, you still have to pay. Then coming to the services, like I said, they've gone to be horrible. So you've got a walk-in hub, which is open from like 8 until 4. And that hub, there is what they call Uber Experts. So when you've got a certain issue, you will have to go there for them to resolve. And these people, only what they can help you, it's just minor things. If there is a certain issue or a technical issue, they'll just say, no, we are putting forward your issue, then it will be resolved. And then there is a virtual service, and they usually refer you to the virtual service. And virtual service is operated by people who are not even in South Africa. So you've got an issue with maybe a client or whatsoever, you'll be phoned by someone from the Netherlands or San Francisco. And then usually when you've got an issue, maybe with pricing or a technical issue, when you write to them, they've got these copy and paste messages that are always there. So you write, they respond you with a copy and paste response that is totally irrelevant to your issue. That is totally irrelevant to your issues. Yet they are taking so much on the Uber fee. You'll imagine with that 29% that they are taking, that the service will be amazing, you'll be attended swiftly, but that's not the case. And it happens that you can be closed, maybe a technical error happens or whatsoever, you get blocked because Uber is a system, it's just a system that operates itself. So you get kicked out of the system. Maybe it's on a Friday. Their offices are closed on the weekend. You will wait until Monday. When they reinstate you, that's just it. They don't cater for your loss during the time you were offline. So it's just up to you. And there is no way you're going to go. When you go to the offices, the hub, they always tell you that, no, it's not us who are taking these decisions. They are taken from overseas. And also the repercussions of being on road 24/7, sleepless nights of driving, which is a norm with Uber drivers. And also as well the attacks that we're getting from the traditional meter taxis. So Uber cars have become high risk, which has come at a cost to us. So I remember I had a Chevrolet Cruze. I insured it. It was 700, I can't remember the figures between, but it was just above 700 rands. And today, an average Uber car pays 1,700 on insurance, just on average. Because most of the insurance companies have since resented Uber cars. And those that have remained are charging exorbitant premiums. So you can imagine the car that I'm talking about, it was on 2015, late 2015, for that amount. So the difference, yet the price remained the same. That's an added cost that has come to us. But they do not take issues like that to cognizant. Then coming to maybe recommendations that I would have as per my analysis. I think from the findings, maybe like I said, I expect maybe you'll still do your research as to other figures. Like I said, with insurance, you'll still do your research to find out, which is there with Uber, because most of the information is there with Uber, because we have to, each and every Uber vehicle has to have an insurance, and also an added cost that I forgot to add that comes to us. It's the passenger liability cover. So each and every Uber vehicle has to have passenger liability cover that covers up to 5 million per passenger. So we have to pay for that. So what you do in your account, you upload all your documents. So with Uber, if you want statistics to prove some of the provisions they do have, so they basically know how many cars they have that are paid off, how many cars that are financed, how many partners, how many Uber drivers, and also with insurance, if you want to find out as to the average, to have facts, because I think mine is a fact, but it remains my experience. But for you to obtain something that will not be disputable, they do have from their system. I believe you'll be able to obtain those from Uber. So based on that, I think it's a mere fact that Uber and Taxify are showing imperialist signs whose agenda is just to enrich themselves at the expense of us, the operators. Therefore, I think it will be important that relevant authorities, with your recommendation, that Uber be regulated, or they be a direct inquiry into their operations, which will expose the exploitation that is currently happening there. Some of the ways that I would suggest, it's moratorium, so whereby you will have to freeze everything as it is right now, then you'll be able to analyze the Uber market. Because what is happening is they are obsessed with pleasing the rider or the consumer, which unfortunately it comes at the expense of the operators, at which I think the Competition Commission is its mandate is about to balance both sides to make sure that as far as the consumer is served well, the service provider also is paid well for the services that they render. So there is no one who's taking advantage of the other. So I think you'll be able also to determine those aspects. And most of all, I think the issue with us is sustainability. Like I've presented in my evidence that there's been so much changes with the expenses and costs that haven't been put to consideration, taking from the price that hasn't been increased for all this time. So I believe, because one of the issues, if you can say maybe the price goes up or just say the price goes down, Uber, they will still, one of the things that they don't take care of is the balance of the supply and demand. So currently they have overflooded the market whereby there is more supply than demand, which is good for the consumer, but now it's coming at the expense of us, the operators. So I believe if you want to make maybe show their vision to say you want to get an Uber in a minute, that's a luxury to the consumer, to the rider, and they will be able to pay for that, where the car just comes at the snap of their finger. But now it cannot be fair that they'll have 10 vehicles for 3 people. It comes at the cost of us, the drivers. So I think most importantly, if you look into pricing, you'll have to balance the logarithms as per the earnings of the drivers. Like currently, like I said, they will bring evidence of myself where I worked and made 8,000 a week. But now the catch is how many hours did I save, did I use, and how many kilometers did my vehicle drive. I'll also tell you something that they did. So there is Uber X, Uber Black, and Uber Van. So Uber Black, it's actually BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audis. These vehicles are very expensive to maintain, and the outcry has been coming mostly from Uber Black. So what they did is they just said suddenly, Uber Black can now access Uber X trips. And for someone who doesn't think deep into it, they'll think, oh, I'm going to be busy. So you get trips. Actually, that's what they did, not what they said they were going to introduce. Suddenly, you're sitting, because myself, I drive Uber Black. So I was just getting these Uber X trips. So what they were trying to lure us into that, you get busy. And mostly it happened, especially with Uber Black, because mostly it's Uber drivers. So it will be someone's vehicle who's sitting in a corporate world, they don't really know what's happening. So your driver is happy to be running around, but that's coming at the cost of at the expense. The expense is coming to you, because that vehicle, the more it runs, the more it wears tires, the more it wears brake pads, the more it uses fuel, the more it goes for maintenance. And note that these vehicles are financed in like 5-6 years. And there is something that is called a balloon, meaning after 6 years, you're still left with 100,000 to refinance to finish it off. So you probably have got 8 years to pay these cars. And I can promise you, under the current operations of Uber, it is highly impossible to pay off an Uber vehicle from the current operations, from the current earnings. And on average, an Uber vehicle, after 3 years, it no longer cuts the DECRA. Like, remember I said it goes through a DECRA inspection. The Uber car after 3 years cannot cut that DECRA inspection. It will be unfit to cut the DECRA inspection, which is something that they are not looking into, because recently, if also you can note it down, they are running an operation where they are, so they realized that most of the guys were bypassing DECRA, so, you know, bribery and all that for their vehicles to make it through DECRA. So they're running an operation, which is the reason guys are trying so hard to limit the expenses. They're trying so hard to keep their vehicles. So in my experience, I had to trade in my car. Just in February, I traded in my car because the car was giving me problems. I could not afford it. I had only had it for more than a year. So you can imagine, I bought the car, it had 43,000 Ks. I had driven it in just that 1 year. It was 127,000. So you can see the mileage that it covers. So it is, like I say, I challenge you, there is no Uber car that can be paid off while it's still on the road. So this is going to be a vicious cycle whereby you'll keep trading in until you can't. Because remember, let me give you an example with my car that I traded in. So when I traded in, so they bought it, the settlement was 256,000. So the garage could only take it for 155,000. So I was left with a shortfall of 104,000. So with that shortfall, they put it on my new car. So it is highly impossible for me to trade in this car that I currently have. But I can promise you, this car, I've had it for those months. It's on 31,000 right now, 31,000 Ks. Very soon, it's going to be on 100,000 Ks. And that vehicle, 2-3 years down the line, it's not going to cut through the Uber inspection, or it's not going to be roadworthy. Let me put it that way. It's not going to be roadworthy because the Uber inspection, there's nothing extraordinary with it. They just check the tires, the windows, everything that the car is fit to be on the road. So already there's people that have been repossessed. There's people that are garnished. There's people that are blacklisted because of this business. It is unfortunate that Uber comes at a time where there is so much unemployment. People are just looking for something to make extra cash. Others, they are jobless. Hence the desperation into getting into Uber. So in my case, you can ask me, then why can't you leave Uber? Unfortunately, I'm stuck. If there was a way I would be rescued out, I'll be out of the Uber business. I can challenge you if the government or anyone puts a relief program to say all the Uber partners that want to be paid their shortfall, because when you return a car to the bank, you just want to say, okay, we're taking it back, but we evaluated. This car is worth 50,000 and you still owe us 100,000. So you have to pay that shortfall. You can't. So you will remain with the car. So I can promise you, if you can put even a dummy to say there's a relief program for Uber partners who want to return their cars and their shortfall will be paid off. You will be amazed by how many people just want out of the Uber business. People are stuck. And that's where the difference comes in. Like I say, there's a driver, he just drives someone else's car. And remember, a driver is paid by commission or they pay a vehicle fee. They don't hold any binding investment or risk. They don't take any responsibility with servicing the car and all that. So they drive Mr. Mutibi's car. If Mr. Mutibi cannot maintain it anymore, Mr. Sibanda here has got his car. They move to his car. So even if they want to give up, they don't have binding investment with Uber. But mostly Uber partner drivers and Uber partners are stuck in this business. So much stuck. So it is quite important that Uber be regulated, the pricing be regulated. And when we say regulated, we not, I think I do not say you should have a colluded price, but rather maybe a best fare, where to say, as per the circumstances, you can only charge this amount. Because if you take from the meter taxis, they do have a best fare. But Uber has just come, they do whatever price. Taxify, they do whatever price. I can promise you, to my knowledge, currently there is like 12 other e-hailing companies that I know. The only way for them to make it, they'll invest while you enter. Thereafter, they take all these incentives out. You are stuck with them again. So there's still competition that will force them to still decrease these prices. Hence, it is important that they be a best fare. And also, there has to be a follow-up. I think it would be better if there is a follow-up to say if an average driver should make so much. Because what the other catch that Uber has, if from 1,000 rand, they take 290. So if I make 1,000 rand, they'll get 290. But if that 1,000 rand is made by all of us divided, they'll still get their 290. But all of us will have to share from that 1,000 bucks. So it's also something that I think I would suggest. And okay, and also like if you know with the meter taxis, so the Department of Transport has got a structure, which is the Meter Taxi Council, BMTC. So BMTC is the one that liaises with government and all the stakeholders, including the operators, the meter taxis. So whenever there is something or the pricing or whatsoever, they engage with the BMCT. With us, with Uber, there is no structure. And hence one of the reasons why it's difficult for Uber to talk from one voice. Like I say, it's the difference between the Uber driver, Uber partner, partner driver. Then also that there is no assembly point. You operate from wherever you are. So we can't even speak from one voice. There is no structure, proper structure. Even hence the reason why the government doesn't really understand so much. So we've been engaging like Community of Safety, Department of Transport, the legislature. And every time when we go there, you realize how much they don't have a clue as to what is happening with the Uber business, which is a reason, because the reason is why is because there is no structure that they can obtain information from. And Uber has got a tendency of fielding its people that pretend to be drivers. So you'll be told with legislature that, no, we did have Uber guys here. So what they do, they come here, pretend to be an Uber partner driver like myself. They mislead you with information, with things that are not there. Because the Competition Commission didn't know where to get us. They'll go to Uber. Uber, they will masquerade as operators. Uber, they serve their interest as the app company, not the app, the drivers. Hence, they have managed to get away with so much. If you look at how much the differences have come to like I explained, if there was a structure, if there was sort of a governing body or a watchdog, it would have not come to this extent. But they always feel there are people that will masquerade as Uber operators, then they mislead whosoever is concerned with what is happening. So they always, when we present, people are shocked to realize, oh, really? They don't understand what's really going on. So I think also it's another suggestion that Department of Transport is looking into that structure. I think it's something that maybe you can also maybe motivate or look into, because I think it will be relevant that there be a structure that will liaise between the Uber operators and the app companies, then the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mguni. Mr. Sibanda and Mr. Mutibi, is there anything that you'd like to add to the presentation?
Yeah. I'm Samuel Mutibi. So many things my colleague have said, but I'm coming from a meter taxi. I was in a meter taxi for 13 years before Uber came. But because of because of our government, they convinced us to go to join Uber. We held a lot of meetings with Uber when we were they promised us a green pasture, whereby they were telling you are going to make 8,500 rand a week. I've got a car. I have a car which I've been given by government when they empower us. From there, I sell that car so that I can get a new car to join Uber. So in the meantime, life is bad since I've joined Uber. And there is no way I can go. Even my children, it's hard. So I think this Uber, there is somebody here at the government who have get a brown envelope, because it was not supposed to be like this. What Uber is doing for us. So joining Uber, I was expecting that, as they promised, I'll be a businessman, whereby I'll have more cars when I'm in this platform. But that has never happened. Since I've started, I've got 3 years at Uber. For the first year, it was good. I was making that 8,500. But that 8,500, I was working more hours, maybe 12 to 16 hours. And on that time, there was no time even to go to toilet. Because when you want to go to toilet, there is somebody requesting you. So when you want to go to toilet, you must switch off the amp, because there was a lot of customers. I'm sure the cars were not so many like the way they are now. So what is happening now? Uber they've brought many cars on the platforms. And Taxify also. And if you can look on our government, they doesn't care about that. Because if you can look, those cars, they doesn't have permits. Most on Taxify, there is nothing at all. You can go there and go enjoy As a competition commission, I was suggesting if someone from you can go to Taxify with his car and go and join and see that those people are they following the law of National Transportation Act, or they are just making the money. Because really what is happening, these guys, they are looting money from poor. Hence we are suffering like this. So my recommendation is that, which I suggest, when I was in a meter taxi in 2010, the price has been regulated. So I think the government must do something to regulate Uber. Because if you can look now, there is a lot of these app companies, which they call app companies. I don't know whether they are app or they are association or they are what. We can't understand what they are. And which constitution is guiding them, these companies. Because as a meter taxi, there is a constitution. So we can't understand what is going on. And even the government, it just keep quiet. It doesn't look on that. So I think the price must be regulated because this is a serious problem. Our people have died. A lot of people, Uber drivers, they've been attacked because of this problem. And what I'm telling you is going back to the minibus. They are going to attack us. Because if I can do example, I don't know whether, do you know Joburg? There is a place where they called, I can say, maybe from UJ to Braamfontein. A minibus is costing 10 rands. So what these school children do, if they go to that minibus, they find out that that minibus, there is not a lot of people who are coming. Maybe there are 4. They go out from that minibus, they stand there, they request Uber. And for Uber, it will take them, it split the trip. It will take them where they are going, straight at the door. And when they take them there, they are going to pay 20 rands, whereby on a Kumbi they were supposed to pay 40 rands. So for that 20 rands, which means they share 5 rand, 5 rand, 5 rand. So which is going to be very, very dangerous situation, even though you can't see it, but it's still coming. So another thing, if you can look, this app company, I don't know, because they doesn't follow the law. Most of them, they doesn't have permits. So I don't know what is happening. What the government said, a car which can operate without a permit. And there is a lot of cars in the platforms without a permit. So I think the government, because when I started in this industry, before, I can say before this new government, the old government, it was very strict. On the meter taxi, we were going to, they check the meter always. Your meter is sealed, everything in your car. But on this government, there's nothing what they do. So we don't know where are we going to. And a painful thing on this Uber, we doesn't have a voice. If you can talk, like now, maybe it will be deactivated as we have come here. Maybe tomorrow we'll be out and nowhere we can go. And when they deactivate you, they doesn't care about your car. They doesn't care where are you going. So just imagine I'm coming from the meter taxi when I'm coming here, and I can't go back to meter taxi because there's no more business there. They've occupied all the spaces. So I think as a government, there is, let's hope they will try to regulate Uber and Taxify and those other e-hailing which are coming. Because you can imagine if somebody's come, this other, at the meantime now this Uber is 20 rand per trip. The other company, when they come, they will say 10 rand. And the other one, when they come, they will say 5 rand. So it's favor you as consumer, like people who are on top. This thing, it doesn't benefit black people, poor black people. It benefits the top people, because my mother, he doesn't know how to order Uber. At location, it's fewer people who are taking Uber. And mostly Uber is benefiting the higher people. Example, that thing what you have talked about, this thing there. Whereby you take your cars to DECRA. Do you know it's painful? Always, every year, when it finishes, I take my car to this traffic department, whereby they do a COF every year. But instead, when I'm coming with that disc, Uber will say, you must go to DECRA. And at DECRA, I'm going to pay money also. So, can you see, which means Uber is getting something from DECRA, from me. Another thing, there is thing which was painful for me. I was coming from doing a PDP. When you take a PDP, they take your fingerprints, everything. But when you come back, when you submit that PDP, they will say, go to do fingerprints. On the other company which they've appointed, and on that company you are going to pay. So there is this thing of this company like Pace and West Bank. Uber is exploiting people or drivers about those companies, whereby I don't know why the government allowing this company to be a meter taxi. Hence, they've got a shuttle permit. So if you are a driver, if you want to get a car, they'll send you to Pace. And to Pace, you are going to pay plus 2.5 to up every week. So just imagine a person, if you are paying an installment of a car more than 10,000 every week. Because that car, even if you take your children to the hospital, for that kilometers, it counts, you must pay for it. So how can they say they are empowering people about that? Whereby a person, I don't know whether even people like you who are on the government, you can pay an installment of 15,000 for a car which is costing 200 and something. Whereby you can pay 15,000 a month. Is that reasonable? It's not exploitation. Whereby they are gaining because of us. So I think Uber, it have exploited us a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mutipi. Mr. Sibanda, if in your submission you could cover new issues instead of the issues which have already been covered by Mr. Mguni and Mr. Sibanda, if you can just avoid duplication.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to thank the opportunity. Yes, my colleagues have actually almost covered everything. And basically what I would say, yes, we came here to inform you about the situations that we are facing outside. And we're hoping everything that we raise will be taken seriously. And here, this is the only place where we think and where we know that everything that we're complaining about, we know that this is the right place where we can raise our concerns. And like as the gentleman have said, we being exploited. The Uber says we are partners with them, but we don't have any say. So I don't really understand how can someone say you're the partner, but he just tells you everything to do. And at the same time, they are saying they are not the employees, while they are the ones that are telling us how we should operate. So in short, my main suggestion, I would say, is if you guys can assist more in terms of saying we form the structure that will represent us as partners, in a way that in every decision that they are making, they don't have to approach any individuals, like the way they say they send the SMSs, then you respond to that SMS. If you respond the way they want, even all of us, almost 10,000 of us, even if we respond and say we don't want this, if it does not go along with them, they're not going to take it. I won't even know what he said. I won't even know what he said. So in a way that if they have to make any decision that concerns us, after the structure has been formed, before anything has been passed, it has to pass through us. And my last suggestion will be, I believe they say if you can't beat them, join them. And if you don't have your own plans of surviving, you have to copy from someone. As the government, we have seen that because this was a one-man idea who came with an Uber, they've shown us that there is something like this. Uber is in South Africa, it's a foreign country. If they can't respect the local people and they're treating us the way they are doing, why don't we chase them out of the country? Then we've got lots of people that they do ITs. Then we develop our own app here. Then we continue surviving. Because they came here investing, they came here as people that are coming here to assist with the unemployment. But instead, they're not doing like that. They are now acting as if us who are the foreigners, them are the ones that are owning here. Because at the end of the day, if they are taking, as you say, as the gentleman explained, if they are taking 29% over 1,000 rand, and I still have got the expenses to cover up for the vehicle, then at the end of the day, they are the ones that are gaining, in a way that it has to be 50-50. So by that, I'm not going to go any further. Those are my suggestions, because I think those are the main two things that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Mr. Ngobeni?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Mr. Muchibi, Mr. Mnguni, and Mr. Sibanda. I think maybe let's just explore a few of the recommendations that you've put forward, because I think maybe that is what I just want to try and understand what you actually suggesting. The concerns are valid, and I'm not going to repeat the concerns. But what I wanted to find out firstly is, Mr. Mnguni, you're proposing that prices be regulated, and then you then caution that without collusion taking place, and you've also you also spoke about a relief program that may be implemented as part of the solution. We heard yesterday from some of your colleagues, and in this case we heard from the Public-Private Transport Association, and what they were recommending is that maybe what then needs to be done is to reduce the app companies' commission to 7.5, and also a 24-month relief program, as you suggest. You're suggesting a relief program. Just to get your views, would that be something that the industry or some of your colleagues may be willing to explore as something to be done?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. But the other thing that we should note is, as much as they can lower the price, but we still need to make sure that they balance the supply and demand. Because what's going to happen if they lower the price, but they put more vehicles, there is more supply than demand. So it means even the fares are low. Now I'm going to get few trips because there is more of us. So I think if something like that is implemented, we will still have to rely on the statistics on average to say, are the earnings sustainable? So, meaning, let's see on average, are the drivers breaking even? If the drivers are, then we know that the supply and demand is balanced. Because I'm afraid we might have them take little, but then they still flood the market. So as much as, and with that one, I still suggest they are taking too much. And also, like I said, I hope you will still do your research compared to other countries. They are taking 29%. In other countries, they are taking as little as 10%, as little as 15%. It's only here that they are taking so much. But it's only here that we are having terrible service. Like I said, the other thing, I don't know, maybe with the policies, something that I forgot to mention that you may have to look at. Is it possible for them to have people that are running, like I said, the virtual, so when you're having an issue, you are responded by someone who's either in Netherlands or that side, not by people who are here. But when you look at it, it says Uber South Africa. It doesn't say Uber San Francisco or Uber. So I think that's something also that I would recommend be looked at.
And thank you for anticipating my next question, because you're saying if that were to be the case, if a relief program were to be introduced and if the commission were to be reduced, then you would advocate for a moratorium.
Yes.
Where, you know, the government and municipalities will then have to look at the regulation of permits. Yes. Now, with that, I just wanted to find out, I mean, we heard yesterday that apparently what is happening is that, you know, drivers are, despite the fact that they're still waiting for operating licenses, they are encouraged by Uber, and this is the evidence that we got yesterday, to still operate despite the fact that their licenses are not approved. So with a receipt that they get from the planning authorities, sorry, from the municipalities and the PRIs, yes, drivers are still encouraged to still operate. Would that be something that you are aware of as players in the industry?
Yes, yes. I think also Mr. Motivi touched very much on that one. He will maybe have to talk further, because one of the reasons why we've got the permits is to analyze the market. So when they issue the permit, it goes through the municipality, whereby they analyze the area to say, okay, in Mahikeng, if we can have 50 minibus taxis based on the demand, it will be enough, it will be sustainable. But with Uber, so what they are doing is that they are just taking as many vehicles as possible, which is one of the reasons why there is no bargaining power. So with moratorium or with permits, if that was the case, there will be bargaining power. So if you were to, like I said, to draw the statistics, you'll be amazed on daily basis how many Uber drivers are being onboarded. So if today, like I am here, tomorrow they just deactivate me, they've got someone who's coming in. So they've got more hence they have got more supply than the demand. So that they know if disgruntled, 500 disgruntled drivers are crying out loud, they just take you out, and then they have got enough. So hence, even you've seen recently with the strikes, so they will try and deny and all that, because they know that on the ground they're still having so many people who will come in. If they block all of you, they will have many people coming in. So I think, yeah, that will work.
In the minibus taxi industry, we understand that what normally happens is that when applications are filed with the PRI for operating licenses, they are advertised. Yes. How does it work in the meter taxi and e-hailing services. Do they also get advertised, and are members of the public and operators given an opportunity to object before those operating licenses are issued or permits are issued?
I'll leave Mr. Mutibi for the meter taxis, but for Uber and Taxify, there is no, like I said, there is no closure. We don't know, even the statistics that I'm bringing forward, it's an analysis. They will not give you any information regarding that.
Yeah, thank you. According to the law, the municipality is the one which determines the permits, how many permits they must take out on all these places. So now the problem which have happened, our government have given Uber more power because they've got their own office whereby there are people, they go to apply permit. If you come with your car, you apply the permit at Uber. It doesn't go to DOT. So, and on that receipt, it states clearly that we are not allowed to operate because it can happen. They can reject that permit because of certain circumstances. So, but Uber, it forced that as long as they've gave them permission to make those permits, when you come, they just apply for you a receipt, you are on the road. Apply the receipt, you are on the road. Okay, I can say Uber is better than Taxify. On Taxify, they doesn't care about receipt or permit. As long as you have got a car, you take it to DECRA, therefore you are on the road. So that is the problem.
Yes, so what I wanted to find out is whether the municipality does advertise those applications. Are you aware of any of the applications that are being considered by the municipality or the PRI?
No, since I've been in this industry, I've never seen when the municipality advertise because I think my first permit, I've applied it, it have taken 2 years to come out. So always I was just going there at DOT, they just say, okay, it's in the process. After that, they will tell you it's in the board. After that, they will tell you it's at municipality. From there, it comes out. So about advertisement, I've never heard about that since I've been in this industry.
And Mr. Mnguni, you mentioned your engagements with the Department of Transport, and then you suggesting that a structure be created to assist the operators. When was this engagement, and what has been the outcome of those discussions? I see you're suggesting that a structure like an e-hailing council be created.
Yes. I think we've had 3 or 4 meetings, with the DOT since last year. So from the DOT, we were, so we've changed from representative to representative, but eventually we were dealing with the director, Mr. Dlamini, which he was on leave recently. Then he came back, he said they were busy because there are issues with the commuter taxis, like with the violence going on. But they are still looking into that. So hence I brought it here. I'm hoping for motivation. If you look into it, based on the findings, I'm sure you would realize that so it's more like we are running like headless chickens. Even the government itself, even him, Mr. Dlamini, they were not aware. So they are the department, but they were not aware of many things that were happening on the ground with Uber. But if there was a structure, a council, I believe it would have been better. And like I said, even yourselves, we only realized later that, oh, there is the competition commission that is currently happening. And only to realize after you had passed in Gauteng. But I think if there was a structure, because the people that I was engaging, they said, we didn't know where to find you. We had people that were from Uber, you know. So it has happened a lot. Even them, Mr. Dlamini, they were like, we've got people that we've been dealing with. And those people are not operators, so they're always serving the interest of Uber instead of the. So I think a structure is critical at this moment, because one of the things is if we were employees, we would be able to join unions. We've also engaged unions, but we don't cut they say it's the 10-point format of being an employee. We don't cut that. So it's difficult for them to let us join and represent us. So hence a structure will be much more viable at this moment, because it will be able to relay the issues in a much more constructive and informative way compared to other means.
And Mr. Muchibi, you mentioned just to get an indication, just to get an understanding, the 8,500 that you mentioned being what an average operator could make, and you said that is in a week and after having driven 12 to 18 hours. Was it a week? Did you say weekly, or is that a daily rate? And that is the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is whether this is, before the market was flooded or at the beginning when you started your operations.
Yeah, I mentioned 8,500. That was they were promising us when they advertised, even when they told that we are going to make 8,500. As my colleagues have said, that
and sorry, before was that per day or is it a weekly?
It was a week.
And it was what was advertised to you by
Uber.
By Uber, okay.
Yes. So on that moment, it was easy to make it because there was a money which they top up, like my colleagues have said, that if you can't make this amount, they top up by this amount. So they were just calling people that you must come in on that moment. So as I've said, when I'm starting, even to pay installment, it was not so hard. A week, if it was month end only, I was knowing that I can make a money which I can pay installment. Even though I would be working harder, maybe 12 hours to 16 hours. But I was hoping that at a month end, I'll make it. So, because there were also initiatives they gave us, that if you make so much trips, they will give you so much. If you doesn't make so much, they will add, like what I have said, if they are saying, if you can't make 150, they can add 50 rand if you have make 100. And if you have make 50 rand, they will add 100 rand so that you can make 150. So it's how they were working. But after that, they take all those things because they are not no more topping up. It's whereby we start struggling. And it's whereby they overflooded the market because they were knowing that now they are all right, the market is overflooded. So they've got no problem. They take everything out. Like airtime, they've taken it out. We were phoning free of charge, but after that, they take it out.
And with the removal of all of those, what is an average operator making?
At the meantime, I'm telling you, if you can make 5,000, yeah, you have worked harder.
Okay. And Mr. Mnguni, you mentioned the issue of corruption. I just want to understand how, because you then mentioned that in other instances, there are other operators who are charged less than you mentioned 20% of, which is the commission. Yes. That these app-based companies charge. How do you know that? Are they operators who are instead of being charged the maximum that others and the rest of the industry is being charged, are the operators who are charged less than that? And what would be the reason for that?
The reason is, so like I said, there are people who will masquerade as Uber operators, presenting Uber operators' interest, but they are in the pockets of Uber. So there are people that they are working with. So if you ask now for someone to give a testimonial or something, they will have a guy that will come. But like I said, I would challenge you to look into the earnings of Mr. It's Riwazan or something, because I listened to the clip very careful. I think it was from Cape Town. So if you are to say, can you see like you say, let's see those earnings that you're mentioning. If he's making them, he's not, they're taking less than the 25% that some of us, they're taking from us. So they've got people that they are in their pockets, and those people have it much more easier. And then the other corruption is they'll tell you that they are no longer taking vehicles, but you'll see vehicles being onboarded. When they're saying, no, we're not taking any vehicles, but they'll still have vehicles onboarded. So I think it's something that you can always obtain if you ask for the statistics to say, can we see are all the Uber operators paying that Uber fee of 25%? Because that one, I can promise you, you will figure out that these guys that are paying less on that. And then there's other things, other business practices that are not okay. So what they did is they introduced upfront pricing. I don't know how I forgot that one because it's critical. So initially, the fares were determined by distance and time. So it was a combination of distance and time. However, early last year, they introduced the upfront pricing. So what happens with the upfront pricing, as soon as I put my pickup location and destination, it then estimates the fare. So if it estimates from, let's say, from here to the mall, and then it says $100. So if you decide to pass by the garage or pick up a friend along the way to the mall, the price will remain the same. So it does not cater for the time and for the distance that has been added. So the expense comes to us, which is another expense that has been added. And this happens mostly in trips whereby you pick someone from the airport, and then they would prefer, especially internationals, they don't like the back routes. So let's say if you are familiar with Joburg, I would say you pick someone from the airport, then they are going to Melrose Arch. So sometimes the route will suggest that you go through Albertina Sisulu, then you go part of Observatory, through Houghton, and then Melrose or Rosebank. Or the other one, if you are going from the airport going to Kyalami, it will go via Tembisa, so there is a route. So when it estimates, it will estimate based on the shortest route. But there is no client that is interested, so the internet, they don't want to go via Tembisa. They'll tell you take the highway. And also the stops and goes, they're not comfortable. They'll always say, take the highway, please. And then when you take the highway, it comes at your expense. So initially the trip was like maybe 15 kilometers based on that route that it estimated. Now you are having 15 more kilometers. It's not going to cater for those. And when you write to them, it's like they've got a mandate to vindicate you and push you away, not to compensate you for that one. So the upfront pricing. And then there's another thing that they call rematching. So when you drop off at the airport, you get a chance to be rematched. So basically how Uber works is, when you request right now, your request goes to the closest vehicle. So if the closest vehicle, it will go to him. If he doesn't take your request, if he rejects it, it jumps until she takes it. So your request always goes to the closest vehicle. That's how it works. But now with that one at the airport, so at the airport we've got a waiting lot, a holding area. So at the airport, it doesn't work by the closest car. It works by the queue. So you go into the holding area. When you go into the holding area, you wait on the queue until your turn comes, and then you get your request, you get your trip. But they introduced something that is called rematching. So he can make a pickup somewhere in Melrose Arch, drop at the airport, get a loop. I can make a pickup somewhere in Edenville, drops at the airport, not get a loop. He can also do, so that rematching is not guaranteed. That's where the rematching, so there's a couple of guys that are lined up for those kind of trips. To notify you how it works, so there is like where they say it's Uber VIP, so like there's guys who've got great ratings. So if you are a rider who uses Uber often, so when you request, your request doesn't go to any guy. It goes to the best driver. So that's how the system, they're able to line up their people with more trips. And if you will do your research, you will see how much they have gotten interdict with those kind of things. And recently now what they have done is, because their app has always had issues where they infringe with other apps and with information. So now they've got an extended outfit on the app. So when you download that app, the previous app, which is on App Store and on Play Store, on iStore, it migrates to this new app. That new app is not there on Play Store, is not there on iStore. When you look for it on iStore, they tell you that this app is not regulated, therefore it's not there on the iStore. And that app they use to infringe on drivers. So they are able to sabotage a driver with their app. So that app, they can program it to freeze that you don't get trips, or that you are more accessible to trips. So that app is not regulated. So they've always had issues in other countries. Unfortunately, this side, they are getting it easy with it.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Lusupe?
I have no questions, Chair.
Ms. Nontombana?
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question. Can you explain maybe briefly the licensing process and the involvement of Uber in terms of assisting you to get operating license or permits, whatever you are currently using?
And what are you using? Maybe if we can be much more clear. Are you using meter taxi licenses, charter licenses?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be able to explain that one because I started in the beginning. So in the beginning, with Uber, we were getting charter licenses. And then I think along the way, the meter taxis interdicted or something like that. Then they said, no, now we're no longer issuing charter licenses. People have to convert to meter taxi licenses. So now when you apply for a meter taxi. So what they do is they will give you a reference letter and other forms. those are the forms that you go and submit at the department. So with your tax clearance, your IDs, proof of residence, the car papers, and yeah, then you go and submit at the Department of Transport, you pay, then you get a receipt. And the receipt is written, you are not allowed to operate with this receipt. But somehow, I think I would understand, because if today you were to say only those that are having permits can operate, the Uber, you will have 70% of Uber drivers off the road. So I think you will figure that one if you obtain the statistics as per how many drivers do have the permits at hand right now. So as soon as it's like that, it's not operational. The Uber system or taxi, with Taxify, they don't care whether you have a receipt or anything. They just enroll you. They don't check so much. But with Uber, I think it will shut down. So I think the government, because there was issue where they were impounding cars. So they are our colleagues that went on to negotiate. So they provided some leniency, because it is also the other excuse that they will tell you, other than that your permit is on the process, they'll tell you that they have got a backlog. They've got an issue with their systems, they cannot analyze and all that. So then there were guys that interdicted that impounding of cars, and then they had to be lenient. And also I think they are looking at that there will be thousands of people who will be jobless in the aftermath of rejecting cars that don't have permits.
Okay, my last question, I think, does Uber assist or Taxify on impounded vehicles, or have they assisted, I think, since 2014? Are you aware of that?
Yes, they do. So if your vehicle gets impounded, you will have to pay for it, then you submit your receipt to them. Then they'll refund you the money that you paid. But unfortunately, mostly when your vehicle is impounded, it takes time, because it goes to the depot where they impound it, and you don't even pay it there. So it takes time to take it out. So you lose so much on the earnings. But they do pay that one.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda, Mr. Mguni, and Mr. Mutibi, for your time and for your presentation. We will certainly take up the issues that you have raised with Uber and the relevant stakeholders. Thank you very much. You are excused.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We will now take a presentation from Sanko, if they're here. Afternoon, ma'am, and welcome. Thank you very much for coming. There is a piece of paper in front of you. You may take the oath or the affirmation.
I, Monamiti Mwiti, solemnly affirm that the evidence that I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Ms. Moeti. If you could just start by introducing your organization as well as the position that you hold within your organization, and then you can take us through your submission. That will be followed by questions from our side.
Yeah, thank you, Program Director. I am from SANCO. It's a people's organization. that deals with all issues that have to be dealt with collectively, especially service delivery.
Can we have a translation
Thank you.
for
In short, we call ourselves an organization for the people.
I, Monamiti Mweti, am a PEC member, additional member. Our secretary, Packet Secretary, is supposed to be here, but unfortunately he's on, he had some other work-related reasons to be not here. Thus, I had to be here for him. In the morning, when you read the rules, I realized that 99.9% of what we have put together is what should be written objections. So, for that reason, I feel that we would rather go and give our members to object in writing and come and present. However, over and above that, I think it is very important to state that there is no communication with the commuters. Communication from transport providers, from government, and I don't think all the service providers know who they are servicing. Even when they are making the presentations, if you listen to how they answer the questions, they don't know that a bus user is not a taxi user, and a taxi user is not a bus user. They don't meet the same needs. It is very important that they get to know who they are servicing. Because if you are saying you are facing off a taxi, you should be knowing that you are leaving somebody stranded. I cannot say to a bus, deliver me, you see, put me at the gate. At the same time, when we talk to communication, that there's a lack of communication. In cases of price hikes, in cases of consultation, the commuter is not thoroughly consulted. When making major decisions, if you go around the Rustenburg area where they were rezoning, people were not really consulted. You affect the business that is being used by a certain user that you don't know whether that person will be comfortable using the bus. You must know that how the bus is structured. Some of the buses are structured. If you are a woman or you are an old elderly person, just getting onto that bus is a problem for you. So it's a matter of comfort that you go to the taxi. As much as if a taxi is overcrowding you, you would rather have an Uber transporting you or Taxify. You know, they don't meet the same needs. They are far from servicing the same person. So those things should be taken into cognizance as to who are we servicing. Now, the other times when there are problems of communication is when there are disruptions. When there are disruptions like strikes, commuters are not really consulted and they are frustrated. And after being frustrated at the end of the strike, you must go and trust the very service provider. But you don't have a choice because you have to go to work, life has to go on. So it's such things that should be looked into. We know that there are go na le dilo tse e leng gore di kopana mmogo go dira gore di price di ye go godimo mme ga go diriwa ditshwetso tsa go isa di price go godimo ba dirise ga go buisana le bone price di ya go godimo hela.
There are issues or matters when combined, they're the cause of prices escalating. Now the problem is that when prices escalate, the users, which are the commuters, are not consulted or communicated to.
Se sengwe ke kanya di Mahikeng sport. O nna le bothata bo bo tswelelang pele bo go dulang go nna le violence ka lebaka la bone mme go a bona la gore both bese taxi pusho ha ba khone go meeta di needs tsa motho yang go Mahikeng sport and batho bao ba oketsega ke market batho bao ga ba lwana gore batho bao ba ska tsewa go ba dirang go meeta di needs tsa batho bao. It's a democratic country.
Another concern is of the Mahikeng sports. It is an ongoing problem because there's violence that is ongoing in those areas. Now, the bus industry, the taxi industry, as well as the government, we can see that it is failing to meet the demands of such people. Now, this on its own, the Mahikeng sport, it is a market on its own, and now in a collective, the buses, the taxis, the government should see the ways and means of meeting the demands of such persons.
Economy, the industry ya di taxi ke ya batho. Gona le etsenya income mo di ownereng le mo badiring. Jaanong ga re tlhaloganye gore how I face of implication ya 12 years after 12 years it's a long term ya go affecta batho and you must understand gore commuter wa affectega because gongwe o pagama ka one madi ao ke ona anyone ke family and how itse gore yana unemployment le go godimo go ntse go thusega gore batho ba nne le ditiro go go berekega yang ka dibese ya go affecta economy and ke e leng gore e ntse thusa batho ba ba go tlase gore the poor.
Another thing is relating to the economy, considering especially the taxi industry, that the taxi industry is for the people. It places an income both to the owner and the driver. Now, the problem is with this 12-year phasing out period, that it might cause difficulties, especially for the commuters, because they cannot afford the prices. And also, this 12-year phasing out program can also affect those who are employed in the taxi industry, such as the taxi drivers, because it might affect their employment. And once there is unemployment, already there is a problem with unemployment. Now, once there is an increase in the unemployment, it might affect the economy.
Ba applying for the license. Before there was no communication. How apply 2015, 2014? We saw Arabi Honano, Ochara came moratorium or me Leano Haisu Grey license. Hahona ko remise matshelo a batho ke bothata.
Another issue of concern, it is the licensing. A lot of people did not get licenses before the moratorium kicked in. Now, the problem it is that with this moratorium, since it kicked in, there is no communications to those who have applied for licenses. And if one has applied for a license around about 2014 and 2015, some of them, they still haven't received any communication. They still have not received any license because of this moratorium. So it is a huge problem.
Operational subsidy e botlhokwa ka gore go le gantsi mo dibese di sa tsamayeng teng go tsamaya di-taxi fela, and ke ko the poor of the poorest ba dulang teng. Yaanong le yone e botlhokwa tota gore e lebiwe e bone gore go thusiwa yang gore e kgone go nna balanced, gore re thusa yang ba ba ko tlase gore ba ye go godimo.
Another matter is relating to the operational subsidy. It is very important because where buses are unable to go, that is where taxis go, and they help the people, especially the poorest of the poor. Now, it is important that we introspect this subsidy so that there can be balance, so that those who are poor can be able to be lifted up or be helped in order to relieve them from poverty.
Yeah, having said that, I have realized and concluded that most of the submission would need written objections, and those will be done as quickly as possible and submitted.
Yeah, thank you very much, Realeboga, Ms. Moeti. Mr. Ngobeni. Mr. Lissofe.
Thank you, Chair. We will await the written submission.
Ms. Nontomban. Yeah, just some clarification issues from my side, Ms. Moeti, based on your oral submission. 2 issues that I just need to clarify. When you earlier referred to the rezoning and the lack of consultation in the rezoning, were you referring to the rezoning which had to be done by the Rustenburg local municipality? Yes. As part of the BRT project in that municipality?
Yes, I was referring to the Rustenburg one.
And then when you referred to the 12-year period, you were referring to the contract between the vehicle operating company for the BRT project in Rustenburg and the local municipality.
Yes,
in
I was referring to that.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for your oral submission. We will await the written submissions from yourself, but thank you very much for coming as well as for your time.
Thank you very much.
You are excused. That concludes the public hearings in this province, which started yesterday. And the next round of public hearings will be in the Eastern Cape province, in Port Elizabeth, starting from the 13th up to the 14th of August. We would like to thank everybody who has assisted us in this province through the various submissions that we have received. Thank you very much. So this will conclude today's session.